Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, there starts the feeling. All right, we're ready. Okay. I oh, I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. The feeling of the elevation and the tingly sensation on my head, I just love it. I know y'all are probably tired of hearing me talking about that, but this is the energy that starts off when I am ready to channel and I feel myself opening opening up access to that, and dropping some of the density that comes from being like really inside of human density that can be a little bit different than your natural soul frequency. Yes, so I just feel that lift. It makes me smile. It makes me have that giggly energy, and I am recognizing the when I am going to see an orb float across the screen is like I can feel it before right before it happens, because it's connected into that sensation. I love it. I love it. I love it. Um this I told somebody the other day when I was sharing a story of one of the miracles that happened in a session with a client, and the just miracle. That's what else can you say, right? I said this is the phase of my life called I'm amazed, because I'm just constantly saying that I'm amazed, I'm amazed, I'm amazed. I'm amazed. And it's true. And it's true. I love it. This is AWE, awe, to be in a state of awe. And this atmosphere where miracles have what they need. What do I mean by that? This sacred surrender, and the way that I have been able somehow to let go of these sandbags of control, which were very tied onto my hot air balloon, right? Those were my survival skill sandbags, were very much control based. And that looks like a variety of different things. I'm not meaning being controlling of other people. Although, does it end up playing out in that way subtly? I think it's not power over and being controlling from a domineering and malignant energy. It's not that. It is the kind of lack of wholeness, lack of comfort to step fully into your own authenticity, individuation, and emotional sovereignty, and a feeling of having been freed from feeling responsible for other people's feelings, if you will. I think this is a piece of it. Anyway, all of this has somehow come into this journey that I've been on, where the sacred surrender, the leaps of faith, the connection to my spirit team, that kind of intimacy, speechless. And what I mean by that is to be known and held and seen and loved from the inside out is where I'm at with the relationship I have with my spirit team, with my angels, with my guides, right? It's like, because of course that's a depth of telepathic, unconditional, ever-present oneness inside of this thing that cannot be taken from you, right? And I lived a lot of my life prior to, even though I've always had this connection. I've always had this. If when people say, like, when did you realize that you could channel, that you could do this, right? Um, I forgot about it, I would say. This has always been something I've had conversations with God inside of my mind, right? And I think when you are breathing and somebody says, like, just teach me how to breathe, um, it's coming home to your nature. It's what is natural to you. And when I'm in this energy that is simultaneously elevated and expansive, it comes with a magnitude of whoop, like powerful energy, right? And sometimes I think to myself, and I thought this when I was driving to work this morning, and I was in this state of meditation and connecting in, I'm again having this dialogue is happening all the time, right? I'm never alone, that type of thing. And I'm thinking, now, why does part of this energy feel like primal? Is the word I wanted to say, like, feels kind of like that, right? And my human mind is thinking primal is not the right word for that, because I don't know that there's a light and expansive connotation to that word primal. And then I'm kind of hearing back, primal is pure in the new earth frequency, where authenticity and expansion lives. The way you would think about primal in a different world where there are fewer or no illusions of separation dominating the mainline energy, if that's not the case, and we are all more whole and all more connected into this oneness, which is through the inner divine balance and access to the altar within, right? And knowing that God moves through all of us for us, right? And there's a purity of your connection, your capacity for this connection to God, that can be, we want to be purest from you, from you. And this is something I feel very passionate about and love to see when it unfolds for the people that I work with, when they've worked with me for whatever period of time. It's different for everybody, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And they say, I think I'm ready to be done. And I say, I'm thinking the same thing. It's amazing. That's amazing. I think that's amazing as a therapist who didn't realize that she was connected to spirit and was not channeling to the clarity and purity that I am now. I think that's next level, to know that people are coming in, leaving in tears, feeling just the spark that has been dimmed start to glow and light up, right? Through the messages, the healing that's happening here. And to get to a point where that healing leads to the kind of wholeness and connection where they say, what it was that you're providing to me, I no longer need, because it's going to continue to be provided to me from the inside. I'm getting signs from my loved ones. I know what they mean. This is happening in between our sessions. My ability to communicate and receive the love, the support, the sense of oneness, the connection, the guidance from God, angels, my loved ones, I'm getting it. And there's a period of time where they are in between the receiving of that, where they're getting that in their lives. And they will just get some channeled messages when they come in to see me. And it's like, did this, and this happen in the past 2 weeks? And yep. all of those three things. So it's building their sense of confidence and belief, knowingness. I almost want to say belief is not quite the depth I want to take it, that their ability to know the truth inside of what they're receiving. And this is the recipe, the ingredients that I was referencing earlier to creating an atmosphere where miracles can flourish. Sometimes when people have reached that stage where they're just about ready to say to me, I think I'm nearing completion here, they can have a little bit of energy that feels like discomfort with saying that to me. And we talk about that, and I say, there's nothing to be feeling concerned about here. This is what I do. This is what I do. I'm not here for you to build a dependency on me. You are demonstrating alignment with my purpose, mission, passion here. When you have arrived at this place where we've done this, miracles have happened. And we've both been a part of it and taken witness to that inside of these healing sessions, right? I've seen psychic mediums and had my own readings and things like this. And I think sometimes when I love that, I think it's a beautiful experience. And also, I think that there's just this place of integration with intuitive healing that is done in this way. And I know I'm not the only one, for sure. There are a lot of other therapists who are really combining their natural psychic gifts with this healing pathway. So I don't want somebody to come to see me, be blown away by the messages and the connection that they felt with their loved ones, walk out of my office and feel disconnected again, and then feel that in order to feel connected, they need to see me. And now they're seeing me once every 6 months or once a year, when they start to feel really disconnected, just to get a little hit of feeling connected and knowing they're not alone, right? I don't want to gatekeep that. My intention is that we all have this ability. We all have this ability to varying degrees. It's a potential. We all have the potential. Now, is everybody going to do this as a job for other people? No. But do we all have the potential to experience this within us in an intimate sense with our own spirit team and energetically in the fabric of like quantum entanglement, the loved ones that are in that field for us? Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe that. I see it happen. How else can I read? This is how I'm reading it, is because you're walking in with it. It's just the healing, the dropping of the sandbags on that hot air balloon of ascension. So your frequency rises and clears enough to allow you the opening, the portal to be able to receive that information from super consciousness. Yes? Beautiful. Beautiful. One of the things that happens fairly often when we're in the middle of these sessions and people are getting beautiful information that is supportive, healing, and they're leaving saying, I feel more seen than I felt in my life after my first session with you, after 60 minutes, and I'm blown away. And this is not from me as a human. This is what is coming through me. This is what is coming through me for them. Yes. And so when they have that, oh my gosh, what is happening kind of experience, then they start wanting more and they'll ask questions. And can I ask you questions to get more? So most of the time, things are just coming through smoothly, and what is meant for them is being provided without a prompting question, which is flow and alignment. That's what it's meant to be. A lot of times as a human, the questions we think that we need the answers to are actually not are actually not the way. And that's a funny thing to say. I know I've walked through it as well. So I am kind of hearing you're still meant to ask the questions. It's not that there's anything wrong with that, or it's not a beautiful part of the divine process. The questions are important. The questions are important. The receptivity to the answers that are going to not be the answers you thought you wanted, not meaning, and I know when people hear that, that can be very provoking to our fear responses of, I'm asking this question for a reason. How is this going to play out in my life? And if I don't get the answer I want, that triggers a fear response in my body. This is not what we're saying. We're not saying you're going to get the answer that you're fearful of. What it is that there is just such a way in which the human mind perceives things in limitation, dichotomy, and categorically, that is a bit of a dense and caged, clunky is the word I get. It makes things like clunky. So when people will ask me, I'll say to them, absolutely, ask any question you want to ask. Of course, I can't guarantee that I'll have an answer for you. We get what we're meant to get. So and I'm now at a place of confidence and having had this collaboration in this healing business with spirit, to the point that there's nothing in me that takes that in anything but like divine accuracy and alignment. So if I'm getting the answer from them of, you're really not meant to know the outcome of it, the answer is inside of your growing capacity to sit in stillness and presence. And this is the gift that we're meant to be expanding into by nature of the sense of discomfort you're feeling rise up, that's making you want to jump ahead of the place that you're in right now. Yes. So the answers come. They are expansive. And even sometimes when and this happens to me all the time, which I get a good kick out of it now. I think there's a humor to it for some reason when I ask a question and then they just kind of I was going to say politely, but it's like that's a kind of a silly word to say, right? When it comes to pure love energy that's communicating to you with expansive answers, right? It's growing me, and I'm able to hold things differently than I did before in this way. And now even the questions I feel inclined to ask are quite a bit different than they were in the past. with that being said, they will give information in the way that is able to be digested as best we can for human consumption is kind of the way I feel, right? And that's going to change depending on where you're at, what you're able to hold and understand and kind of marinate in is going to be different. So they provide what it is you're ready for at that given time. And so you can ask, I think the same question that I could ask a year ago is going to be, I'm going to hear a not conflicting, but just more expansive response to if I were to ask this now, right? It kind of builds on itself. So, with that being said, one of the ways that I have been hearing and seeing and using this as like a framework for some of the sessions that I've had with people is to say, if we want to be able to understand through the human scape of categorizing, to be able to feel energy and alignment, where wounds are versus where alignment is inside of wholeness and authenticity with soul essence, which is going to be where you will more clearly be able to hear the guidance directly from your spirit team, because the fear and the doubt type of energy clouds, it's like static on your radio, and you want that radio to be tuned to the station so you can communicate directly and just to be in flow, be in alignment, right? So one of the ways that they show me this and that I tend to understand it and that I've been communicating to other people is that there's a range of energy, there's a range of frequency, there's a range of emotions. So we can say excitement, nervous, worried, fearful, joyful, all these things. When you boil down everything, it can funnel into two different energies. Basically, we can think of it in terms of love or fear. Love or fear. And the more you get used to holding that, I'll practice things with my clients to say, we're going to have love over here, fear over here. When I say this word to you, I want you to place it where it belongs, per you. And so I'll say love and fear. And I'll say trust. Where does trust go? I'm pausing so that you can consider, where do you put trust, right? I'll say self-sacrifice. Where does that go? Doubt. Where does that go? And this is in context of individual sessions. What I see is the wounded energy that is still creating, I can't think of the word of the opposite of coherence, disharmony, in a way where they're not in full alignment and wholeness, that shows up. So I have somebody who I say trust, and they very quickly go fear. I say, interesting, you're putting trust in fear. Why is that? Because it's scary to not be able to trust somebody. So we can see there's wounded energy of a limiting belief there. If you think of trust and where that goes, and you fully trust something, someone, whatever it is, we have 100% trust there. Is that not love? Is that not love energy, right? Similar question. Because what we're saying there is, when we're putting trust under fear, And then I ask, well, why is trust over there? Trust is there because it's scary to not trust somebody. So we've got like a double negative kind of situation, right? And so then what is there? Doubt, doubt, lack of trust. That is on the fear side. Trust is under love. And then similar thing for self-sacrifice. I had that situation, self-sacrifice. Where does that go? Love. Immediate response. When you sacrifice yourself, that is love. Immediate response from this person is interesting. In the context of what we're talking about is incredibly relevant to that dynamic where we are grappling with feeling guilt and shame prone on making a choice that we're being spiritually called to make, and wounded energy of from childhood dynamics that are very attachment based are contributing to this. And now we're in this position where we're functioning from obligation, a sense of feeling responsible for other people, to a degree where we are very clearly deprioritizing ourself in an unhealthy way, building energies of resentment, all of these things. This is wounded energy of fear. So we can see we have a confusion happening here. And that can go both directions, where you see the placement that somebody provides when I ask them that question of put this under, if it goes with love or if it goes with fear. It is like a very plattered delivery of here's my limiting belief, right? Here's a piece of where we can see how this is playing out. I want to talk a little bit more about self sacrifice. And like I said, that being put under the category of love, and the wounded energy underneath that of to sacrifice yourself means love, right? And I think this is popping into my mind right now, this little phrase that I've seen before that says something along the lines of, yes, you say you would die for your children, but would you live for them? And this is, when I've seen this, I believe it's been connected to the context of the in-depth healing work, breaking of these dysfunctional patterns, and arriving at wholeness. And now I'm viewing this statue that I think is famous, and I don't know the language for it, but as I describe it, I'm sure everyone will know what I'm referencing. It is this big, huge metal statue of this child next to a parent figure, and the parent figure has a whole bunch of holes in it, and the child is like solid. And basically, the impression is that the parents' lack of wholeness is providing the child with wholeness, which is illusions of separation. This is not oneness. This is not oneness. How can a child, when you know about child development, not just from psychology standpoint or educationally, but also when you know about the truth of oneness energy and source and attachment and all these things, that can't happen. That can't happen in that type of way. Spiritually, emotionally, mentally, if a child is seeing that a parent is losing pieces of themselves, not being able to care for themselves, and handing this over in this kind of what, like, a child can't receive that and stay inside of a wholeness energy. I'm thinking about the amount of feelings of responsibility or shame and guilt prone energy that would be handed in tandem to that child if we're functioning in that kind of a dynamic. Love is abundant. And this is when we talk about those categories of love and fear, and we say, where does trust go? Where does self-sacrifice go, right? Where does lack, limitation, scarcity go, right? Where does abundance go? This is the candle analogy of how many candles can you light from one flame without dimming that light? Love. That's love. That's love. This, it thrives in places where wholeness is steering the ship, right? And this is what I'm trying to explain when I say, because I think a lot of us can probably resonate to this notion of confusion and limiting belief that we've internalized that says when you're willing to abandon yourself for this other person, when you're willing to quiet your needs and desires to prioritize theirs over yours, that this is love. This is not. This is not. That is, those are conditions. That's conditional. That's conditional. And when I said earlier something about the control that comprise the material inside of these sandbags that I have been dropping off, and I had attempted to explain that as differentiating power over or a domineering type of energy or possessive energy, that's not what I mean by control. Control can present in a variety of different manifestations, patterns, behaviors that all affect relationship to self and interpersonal relationship dynamics. And so when we're talking about a type of self-sacrifice that lends to this guilt and shame prone energy where we're constantly trying to be finely attuned as an empath to other people's needs, desires, hopes, wants from us, if they are trying to garner their sense of love, peace, stability, worthiness from us, I had some tendencies to lean into that, which is a form of me handing my power right to you, which belongs to me. And in that way, there's a path to empowerment when we have the ability to witness ourself, our worth, our journey, and hold on to what has always belonged to us while simultaneously releasing those sandbags of guilt that have led us to drop our own responsibilities for our own needs, desires, alignment with self in order to take ownership for somebody else's. And so you have this dynamic when I've talked about attachment wound energy that plays out where we can find like a giver taker type of energy of, I'm patterned to drop mine, you're patterned to hand over yours, so game on. Right? And it's an interesting thing to see when we arrive at the gifts of that spiral journey and being able to come home to ourselves. We realize indeed we have won something out of this. So the way, when I say control and you're still hearing or trying to listen for, in what way is this controlling, Miranda? This is in a way of I'm controlling the relationship by trying to manage the connection through overgiving and through attempting to anticipate what is expected, needed, wanted, desired of me without even having to put that person in a position of having to clearly state or ask that, right? And that is a form of how codependency can play out. A lot of people misinterpret what codependency means and think, oh, I'm dependent. I mean, emotionally dependent, yes, from anxious attachment wounds, but not the way that they're misperceiving to say, like, I'm not codependent. I'm very self-sufficient. I'm very high functioning. I have like some hyper independence. The codependency piece can come into the what is chaining you emotionally from in a way that is holding you back from feeling free, authentic, and having the emotional safety from the inside out to honor your truth, speak it when needed, know that you don't owe explanation or apology for that at times. And this is like the detachment that is the sandbag dropping, that is connected to releasing control. And control is, where does control go, right? Fear, love. If you're engaging in any type of dynamics and interpersonal relationships, and we're feeling some sense of strategy, analyzing, control, emotional enmeshment, where would we put control? Fear. That's conditional. Love, unconditional, true love. It doesn't mean that conditions don't exist in life, in relationships, in your relationship to yourself, in the way that other people know where and how to connect with you. Conditions exist. Unconditional love doesn't require you to sacrifice yourself. If you're feeling the energy of I'm sacrificing myself here to maintain this connection, you may not be in alignment.